So now on to the webinar today. Today's webinar, Phantom Flyers, Migratory Species from Ohio to Costa Rica, is led by Jim Córdoba-Alfaro. Jim is a Costa Rican entomologist, conservationist, and educator whose lifelong mission has been to protect and promote the extraordinary biodiversity of the Osa Peninsula. He is the founder and president of the BioSur Foundation, which advances conservation, scientific research, and environmental education, and includes Insectopedia, a museum dedicated to insects and their role in our world. Jim co-authored the discovery of numerous species, including over 30 new insects and 2 mammals. Jim's impact goes far beyond scientific research. He's deeply committed to conservation, education, and science communication. He leads environmental education programs that engage local communities and youth, helping foster a culture of stewardship rooted in knowledge and pride in Costa Rica's natural heritage. His work includes developing tools like the Animals of Costa Rica app to make biodiversity more accessible, and he regularly collaborates with media, schools, and NGOs to amplify the importance of protecting natural ecosystems. Jim's holistic approach blends science, community engagement, and storytelling to inspire meaningful conservation action. So we are lucky Jim came to Tinkers Creek to help spread his knowledge and love for conservation, and TCWP is fortunate enough to be hosting him through the U.S. State Department's Community Solutions Fellow Program. So with all of that, I am going to turn it over to Jim. Erica, if you can help me unpin myself for everybody here, and then we will go ahead and pin Jim so that you can see him and his presentation.
All right. Hello, everybody. It's a big honor, a big pleasure to be here in front of all of you. Thank you so much for your time. And today, well, I want to talk more about what really inspired me to come into the United States. What is my purpose and mission to be here? And a little bit about the journey that I've been doing in Costa Rica for protect one of the most enigmatic and magical places on Earth. Um, so I'm just 32 years old. I'm just somebody really passionate about nature since I can remember. And especially I love insects, those little creatures that I feel, fascinated about them. They are really misunderstood. People don't understand very well what is the role of those creepy creatures that sometimes we can find in our planet. So that brought me into a huge journey since I can remember. Since my 9 years old, I've been collecting bugs, studied them, creating a biological collections, and now ended up into a museum center. So I want to inspire you, especially motivate Americans to protect. And areas like this, as is Ohio, is essential for preserve many animals that travel so far even into Costa Rica, and that is what we're going to learn in this presentation, how our natural world is interconnected, even that we don't see them as phantoms. They the role that they play in our planet are essential. So we want to talk a little bit about this, and but also to motivate you to believe in conservation even more, and why it's essential to protect areas like this in the United States. So let me share a little bit my presentation. So as I told you, I've been fascinated about the natural world. Since I can remember, I've been chasing bugs everywhere in Costa Rica. Luckily, we have a lot of them, so that you get idea. We have over 20,000 species of butterflies and moths in our country. Just this group is huge, and so that brought me into study them for many years because they are charismatic. They tell us so much about the ecosystems. They are bioindicators of the environment. So through them, I've been learning a lot of stuff of how the natural world is working, and how why brought me into become a conservationist eventually. So I've been creating this biological collection since my 9 years old. That brought me into explore into the most remote areas of Costa Rica and to the most darkest and deepest jungles of our country to discover that real biodiversity that inhabit Costa Rica. So since I've been working, I've been able to name over 30 new species for science so far. um, to discover even new mammals for Costa Rica, to contribute with different, international projects to understand the biodiversity. And so that brought me into not just to help to document the biodiversity of our country, but at the same time to understand the critical situation that we are in our planet. I cannot just cross my hands. I want to give back into nature as much as I can. So this has been a huge commitment with Mother Earth. And so I'm brought me into a beautiful purpose of life that is to motivate others to believe in conservation, to work with our community as well, to enhance them, enhance the ecotourism in the region, to create new protected areas in Costa Rica. But the most important, to get involved into the conservation movement. So I think that has been one of the most beautiful journeys so far. I never expected in my life that we can accomplish so much as individuals for give back into nature too. So this journey brought me to preserve everything that you guys can see on this image. So far, that forest has been secure and protected, and is part of the legacy that we are building. Currently, as Angela was mentioning, I am the founder and president of two nonprofit organizations so far. One is based in Costa Rica, that is BioSur Foundation. We are the first Costa Rican grassroots NGO creating new protected areas in the southern Pacific of Costa Rica, probably one of the most special areas in biodiversity of the planet. And my goal is to preserve those forests that now people are logging. They are not protected by the government. And so those lands are especially those that I feel interested to keep preserving as part of our legacy. So people can follow my work. If you have social media, you can find me as Jungle Jim low bar CR. So it's actually an incredible way now that we have technology for we can keep communicating and hopefully to motivate you to come down into our reality in Costa Rica. So the Osa Peninsula, it's located in Costa Rica, in the southern Pacific of Costa Rica. Costa Rica basically have two tropical rainforests. One, of course, on the Caribbean side of the country, and the other one, of course, in the southern Pacific of Costa Rica, where we can see the circle. Both rainforests of Costa Rica has been divided for almost 2.5 millions of years, creating a unique biodiversity that just occurs on this Pacific slope of our country, especially. So the Osa Peninsula is really high of endemic species that you cannot find somewhere else. And basically, you can find from mammals that you cannot find somewhere else, to birds that you cannot find somewhere else, frogs, reptiles, plants, trees, you know, it's a huge amount of species that just occurs in this side of our planet. So it's a really important endemism zone that exists in Central America. So the area has been really remote. It's probably the farthest part of to visit in Costa Rica. Has been always the last frontier, the last basically wilderness part of our country. And there is a really famous national park that is called Corcovado National Park. Corcovado is basically, we feel really proud of Costa Ricans. I think it's a treasure what we have in this part of our country. And it's the last habitat of many endangered species. It's the last frontier where they can inhabit. So if we write off this ecosystem, we can lose a lot of species forever. So that is our mission, to keep raising that awareness, that people understand why we should care about this area of the planet and how that could be interconnected even with Ohio is what we're going to learn. So you can see a little bit about the landscape where we live in our country. It's such a pretty place on Earth. We are surrounded by that magnificent rainforest where we estimate that almost 3% of the world's biodiversity inhabit. We have this incredible evergreen forest that is really enigmatic so far because has been really difficult to get access into that part of Costa Rica. Many rivers, mangroves, and that thick rainforest, and also we have really dangerous animals inside of the forest. So that has been avoiding the people colonize this area for many years. So now this national park is part of that treasure system of protected areas that Costa Rica today preserve. As I've been mentioning, we have a lot of animals that are, they just are in that side of Costa Rica. They are heading into extinction in Central America, and still we know that they can survive, and we have healthy populations in this side of Costa Rica. A great example of that is the tapir. The tapirs is the largest tropical land mammal that we have in this part of the world. Sadly, there are not so many tapirs left. Talking with one of the experts that are working currently with tapirs, he mentioned that there are no more than 2,000 individuals left in our country. And the majority of them are on this side of Costa Rica as well. So this is a clear example of how fragile as well it's our forest there, and how much important in an international level is to preserve areas like this. Another great example of really critical endangered species that we have in the region is the spider monkey. So the spider monkey, it's basically the 22nd most threatened mammal of our planet. We now understand that small expansions that we can do into the area can bring these species to the extinction. Noises as cars, for example, nearby roads can create extinctions of this monkey, and the fragmentation of the forest is a big problem for the conservation of this species. This is because this animal is strictly arboreal, so they require the connectivity of the forest canopy. So when we develop roads and we develop farms and on cattle fields, we fragmentate its habitat, and then we isolate the populations. And if the population is not big enough, eventually will disappear. So that is why this species become one of the most challenging ones to preserve currently in our region, but essential and for the entire functioning of the rainforest. It's a keystone species. We found over 400 different types of seeds in their feces. Many of those trees never germinate if the monkey never swallow the seeds. So that is what we are studying. We are recording how the natural world is working, especially we are focused to understand a species like them. And actually everything that we are doing in BioSur is for create a biological corridor as part of this heritage for secure, isolated population can reconnect once again with the national park. So this is basically part of the mission that we have as a nonprofit organization. This is part of the biodiversity that we you guys can see in our place. So we have different species of anteaters. We estimate that over 400 species of birds occur in our region. So it's a treasure what we have in this area. Over 3% of the biological heritage of our planet is preserved in our land. And I think that makes this area super special in conservation. Nevertheless, the region as well is, we suffer a lot because we have this luxury rainforest, and next to that we have one of the most poorer communities that inhabit in Costa Rica. So the government never project into our community, took many years to develop education in the region. Still many people, they are not able to afford to study in universities in the region. So the lack of the education brought a lot of poorness into our local community. So many of those people still they require the nature for survive. Many of them are gold miners, still poaching. Is a big problem in the region. Logging as well is a big region, and literally I don't trying to judge anyone because this is a structural problem that comes from our heritage, how we've been developing. our country. So what we're trying to do today is to flip over their minds to understand conservation and understand that probably the real color of gold is green. So changing that way of how we can use our natural resources in a clever and smart way is how we can bring more prosperity into our region, more possibilities into our local community, and allow our community to grow in a sustainable way. It's part of the mission as well of BioSur Foundation. In the region, still we face this. Logging keeps going in our country. I mean, it's still thousands of acres of primary rainforest keep cutting down in Costa Rica, especially created by monocrops as pineapple. Today, 2% of Costa Rica is pineapple. So it's a monocrop. So pineapple is a small plant, that grows on the ground. So they need to eradicate completely the vegetation, for example, and use really aggressive pesticides, for avoid all the insects that we have in these beautiful ecosystems to become a problem into crops like that. So pineapple, bananas, and palm oil is becoming a huge threat, especially for the conservation of the tropical rainforest today. However, doesn't mean that we've been doing the things, in a good direction. And so Costa Rica is a clear example, especially for all politicians that been believing in this green Costa Rica for create this green image in international level as we have today. The situation used to be completely different. Between the beginning of the last century, we used to be known as the Banana Republic. So people used to just know about us because of the bananas that we used to export. That brought a huge deforestations between the beginning of the centuries and between the 70s. That brought a huge deforestation in our country. And thanks to foreign people as well that came to our country, they brought that awareness in conservation to say, okay, we cannot keep going destroying all this nature. So many people and scientists, they start working together with the government to create the new protected areas in Costa Rica. Today, we protect almost 57% of our land, it's forest. So it's a clear example that we can reverse deforestation, bring back nature, and basically secure that we're going to have a healthy ecosystem, water, and clean air. That is what matters for all of us. So I want to share those images because sometimes I feel like, especially now, we are losing our hope in conservation sometimes. It's sometimes all bad news get really far, but good news never get too far. So, and this is a clear example that we can bring back nature. Even that the damage has been done, we can restore our planet. Nature is really resilient. We need to learn that. So this is basically Corcovado National Park. As you can see, used to be a lot of farms around. A lot of big areas got like completely transformed into cattle fields during the 70s. And then the conservation movement begins, and the government took actions to remove the people that used to be living there, uh, put them somewhere else inside of the peninsula, and create what today is Corcovado National Park. I cannot deny that the way of how they create a protected area was a huge social conflict. What they create, throwing away over 2,000 families that used to be almost inside of Corcovado National Park. So that create a really bad reputation in conservation that is still exists in our community. So people don't believe in conservation because the way on the model of conservation that has been developed was really bad for them. But in one point, on the other hand, we can see the results of that conservation system or that they implemented during the 70s. This place is basically the same. This is after conservation movement, and today is the most important area to visit in Corcovado National Park. This is the economic engine of our local community. So Sirena Ranger Station and Corcovado National Park is the source of income for the majority part of our community today. And thanks to those people that visualize that in the future and how much important is to preserve the natural areas in Costa Rica, that create interesting source of incomes that now people are working with ecotourism. Many of them they're trying to become tour guides and learn about nature and brought that prosperity that we require for growth as a community. Nevertheless, still situations and issues like this keeps happening. Something that we are facing inside of the region is the concept of development. And I want to say we need to be so careful each time that we talk about what is development. If it is bring destruction and bring a species to the extinction, that actually is not development, it's destruction, what we are facing. And that make us more poor. So we are studying how basically road development keeps creating problems into the biodiversity of Costa Rica. As we can see, it's really heartbreaking that still a lot of endangered species keep disappearing day by day in our roads. And it's a global problem today. So what we're trying to do is to understand what happened with that biodiversity using now technology, AI, to basically let us to understand deeply how we can preserve that biodiversity that is dying in our roads today. So seeing all those problems in a historical way brought me to create BioSur Foundation, seeing that we have a lack of education in the system, we have animals still dying in the place, seeing logging and mining operations keeps going in the region, brought me to create BioSur foundations to contribute and help coming from our actions to help that local community and hopefully we can transform everything that we are doing once again into more forest. So I found that many people from my region, they never visit a natural history museum. They even don't imagine what actually inhabit inside of the rainforest. So sharing with kids and sharing the bugs that was basically collecting in the rainforest brought me into take a minute for visualize a possible center that we can build it up in the future for create those opportunities for our local community, but also for the visitors that are coming to the Osa Peninsula. So took me more than 10 years to complete this project. And luckily we are the first, basically I'm the second person in the history of Costa Rica to manage these special permits from the government of Costa Rica for create this biological collection, but also this museum center. So it has been a big effort for many years and many people as well working into this biological collection. So today is a heritage for all of us. And this is interesting. Why collections are essential? Well, basically because over 80% of the insects in Costa Rica still they don't have a name. We don't know about them. We don't know what they do, what is their role, basically they play in the habitat, and how that could be interconnected with other animals and plants, etc., etc. So to understand our nature is key. We cannot preserve something that we don't know. And in order to protect them, we need to create information, putting a name and classify them and understand the role that they play. So I've been doing that for many years. Preserving this collection is just a few samples. It's not a massive collection neither, but let me to actually go deeper into our biodiversity. As I've been mentioning, I've been doing that since my 9 years old. So if I have seen changes already with the biodiversity of insects in Costa Rica, yes. I have seen critical situations now. I can see that many of the insects that I played when I was a kid, they have disappeared already. And I finger crossed they are not extinct. So that is something that brought me into a strong pain to see those changes in nature and why I ended up preserving even more nature around. As I've been mentioning, I trying to bring more opportunities to our local community. And it's hard because many people struggle, and I would love that we have a lot of resources for I can bring back into our community. But luckily, we've been able to get some grants, and little by little, by the effort coming from my team, we've been putting our hearts into those documents for present proposals. I mean, for presented to international organizations and also national organizations in Costa Rica, and led us to promote something different, that is education. So luckily, I've been able to bring experts to and train our local community to project into the local women, empower local women into conservation as well. Create jobs in our community. So I have a lot of people working as well as a tour guide. Also, we create direct jobs related with patrol and preserving the reserves that we manage today, and people that are working in all the administration part of BioSur. So I feel like everything is growing in a beautiful way, and I never expect that in my life, and that is why I'm saying all of you play an important role on this planet. Every day we can do something, even that we feel that it's small, and doesn't matter. We need to start with our local community, and that is why I feels really motivated to work with Tinker Creek here in the United States. Hopefully, I can motivate more people to believe in this. So since I've been doing that, more people start coming and believing in that same dream. And that has been so beautiful. So we ended up creating educational experiences for high schools, for universities. Also, we receive welcome to volunteers and people that wants to do internships in Costa Rica, and they want to increase their curriculum with us. So this is part of the facilities. They are completely immersed inside of the tropical rainforest. So we bring students from all over the planet to learn. But also we interact with our schools and high schools a lot. So promoting that into our community. So here you can see part of the team getting their breakfast in our place. So this is our legacy. I don't going to take this away from anyone. It's part of what we are building together. And I been dreaming to preserve a forest and help to create a new protected area in Costa Rica. And hopefully I can motivate more people everywhere on the planet to do the same. So what makes up a forest ecosystem? So basically is that interactions happening with the living things and the non-living things, but something that I've been learning, the little creatures are the most important ones. Even they are bizarre and creepy, and some of them are beautiful too. Most of them are weird, but they're essential for hold the entire forest and the biodiversity that comes in your mind today. So that is why I'm much in concern with the biodiversity of those little creepy things. And it's really hard to the people understand that. It's easier that people feel more connected with a panda, than actually we explain what is going on with the butterflies and crickets and praying mantises and spiders. but they are essential. This is because they are so diverse. Over 80% of everything that inhabit our planet basically are arthropods. It's basically spiders, crabs, millipedes, centipedes, and many other creatures that conform what we call arthropods. And we just represent less than 5% of everything. So arthropods are essential for the functioning of our planet because they develop important roles as the pollination. They helps to decompose and bring back nutrients into the soils. They are essential for the food web, of the ecosystems, and they are engineers. So they helps basically to build it up the ecosystems. And this picture that you can see, and all the pictures that actually you have seen, is what I've been documenting. I take those pictures, and this animal that you can see here is a Sessian bug that is coming from Tinker Creek. So it's those little creatures that we can find here in this part of Ohio. I don't know if some one of you have seen those creatures before. This guy resembles like a praying mantis because you can see that has like a raptor legs, and basically it's a converged evolution with praying mantises. So it's not related with praying mantises at all. They don't share ancestors more than they are insects. But they have those peculiar raptor legs, and it's because this bug as well is a predator and is looking for kill possible bees and other beautiful pollinators that land on these flowers in Ohio. Something that I've been learning is that people think there are a lot of competition going on inside of the forest, inside of nature, but it's true. There are competition happening, but actually one of the most evolved symptom in behavior in nature is collaboration. Collaboration basically is super interesting because we're going to see fascinating symbiotic relationships going on. And I found this creature uh, interacting between each other. This is a blue butterfly. This is one of the most beautiful little butterflies that we can find here in Tinker Creek. And I found this caterpillar. We can see those two ants touching the caterpillar, not because they want to attack the caterpillar. It's actually because they are stimulating the larva to develop sugar from some special glands that are coming nearby the last segments of their abdomen. So right in between those ends, this is a special organ that develops sugar. And that is what the ants are drinking. As a favor, the ants will protect the caterpillar of possible wasp or fly parasitoids that can kill this species. Something that is fascinating is that the caterpillar stridulate, make noises, and the ants can understand what the caterpillar is communicating. This is something that blow my mind. And sometimes those relationships are really tight between each other. So the butterfly, caterpillar, and the ants really require each other. They need each other. This is part of the biodiversity of Tinker Creek. I don't know if someone of you have seen that biodiversity before, but that nature that we have here is what keeps the biodiversity really healthy. And if we want to preserve what is in the creek, we need to preserve as well all those creatures too. That create the balance that we need in nature. So that is why insects are really interesting because they are bioindicators. Nevertheless, as I've been mentioning before, I feel worried about the conservation of this group of animals. We cannot deny that insects are disappearing everywhere across the planet. Costa Rica is no exception either. So that you get idea, over 40% of the biomass of insect decline in less than 10 years in our country. And that is happening in a global scale too. There are some areas that even the situation is worse, around 70% in some part of Europe. Here in the United States as well, it's happening that bees and are disappearing. So we should care about this. Yes, we do. Uh, the situation, it's critical, and it's when we need to start changing our policies. We're trying to raise, the awareness into our government, for we can write off some chemicals that are annihilating the good insects, that are at least 99% of them. And find new ways of how we can develop our crops and monocrops. So, but we should feel worry about what is happening with this biodiversity too. Part of why we are facing this situation with the biomass of insects is because they have different threats. Habitat loss is one of the main reasons of why insects keep disappearing off our planet. We cannot deny that the tropical rainforest in Amazon is disappearing day by day in a scary rates. Uh, you know, and the situation is it's in a global scale today. Pesticides is responsible of the majority part of the declining of the insects. Long time ago, we just used to destroy the planet in a mechanic way, and now it's in a chemical way. So the chemicals go even deeply inside of nature. They go underground. They ended up inside of the ocean. They go far as well. They can travel through using the air, and that is something that we are not understanding, and it's a big problem today. And sadly, those chemicals ended up as well in us, polluting our species and creating problems with our health. The situation of how we develop our cities, like light pollution, is a big problem with the conservation of insects. I was mentioning that the cities, they are like a vacuum for insects. So they attract insects from darker areas, and little by little, the insects ended up in our cities. So light pollution it's a responsible that millions of insects die every single night across the planet. We need to start changing that too. We need to bring technology that already is happening, for avoid this problem with the conservation of those animals. By the way, this is a moth that ended up inside of Tinker Crate. I think is incredible. It's really fluffy. It's like a teddy. Um, Also, we have invasive species that we have detected in this part of Ohio. Thanks to our friend Matt, he's like, oh, got excited, and we saw this beautiful praying mantis, and then Matt is like, oh, Jim, do you know that this is one of our invasive species from China? So invasive species can become a huge problem. Um, Especially a great example of that is this creature, the spotted lanternfly, that is a species from China that ended up in Ohio. And I have seen it with my own eyes that can become a huge problem. Over 70 different species of plants are now suffering the consequences of this bug that keeps propagating into this part of the United States, which is interesting. We are talking about that this is a tropical group of insects that normally we will find across the belt, of the tropics of our planet. And it's fascinating that now this species can adapt in this part of the United States. So this means that our ecosystems here as well are changing, and now tropical species like this can become a problem in areas that are supposed to be used to be more cold. As I've been mentioning, Ohio, and especially the area around the big lakes, the Great Lakes in the United States, are essential for the conservation of many, many species. It's one of the most important migratory areas in America. And so millions, literally hundreds of millions of species migrate every single year to the tropics. And so even though we think Costa Rica can become far from here, that is not the reality for the majority part of our biodiversity, so that they can go perfectly back and forth between the tropics and areas like here. So now we have technology to realize this. So now that technology is more available for all of us, we can understand even deeply what is happening with our nature. So a great example of that is this warbler. So this warbler has been found in the Central Valley of Costa Rica. We are talking about, that this same individual, the picture that you can see is the individual that has been collected, trapped first in Costa Rica. And then we tagged them there in our country, and we have detected that this species ended up in Missouri. We are talking about almost 3,000 miles away for such a little bird. And it's amazing that those little creatures can go back and forth. They can escape storms. They can navigate in a short time. We are talking about just a couple days that can end up from here to there. But is their reality. And here is how we can see how our natural world is interconnected, how we can preserve a species like this that share international frontiers. So that is why preserving your community in this part of the United States is essential. We need to motivate more people to understand that areas like this are critical for the entire functioning of our planet. This is another great example of a Tennessee warbler that ended up even in Montreal, in Canada. So it's fascinating how little creatures can go back and forth, but there are many examples of that. Here we have another wood thrush that ended up as well in Canada, passing by Ohio actually, and we found those species in this part of Central America. We know that there are species that even can go even farther. So like the peregrine falcons, So this is a great example. There is a famous peregrine falcon called island bird that go through Ohio several times and even ended up into Chile. And this same individual has been so basically traveling back and forth through so many years already, from basically these areas in the United States and Canada, and ended up as well in the tropics. So it's fascinating to see how the natural world is interconnected. We need to understand that if we want to accomplish conservation, we need to copy and model nature as well. We need to be interconnected as well. As individuals, we need to motivate more people to believe in what we are doing, and the people understand that nature is just one, and we don't have more opportunities. This is a clear example of that biodiversity that comes from Ohio ended up into Costa Rica. For me, it's fascinating. Each time that I see a osprey or I see a peregrine falcon inside of the rainforest, or oriole, or the great blue herons, now that I've been able to see them here, it's like how those animals can go back and forth every single year is such a fascinating thing. Um, we need to understand that still there is a lot of work to do for understand the nature that we have here, but that is the point, that we never give up doing our work, and the problems that we are seeing become part of that passion for we can put our effort and leave a better planet for all of us, and especially for all those animals that we have here as well. So let's make our nature become our legacy. And thank you so much for all of you basically to be part of this webinar. Let me know if someone wants to ask something.
Hi, Jim. So one of the questions Jordan has, who is one of our now core AmeriCorps members, he was asking, are any of your migratory bird species tracked abandoned during their travels? So if you can just kind of clarify, I think the examples you gave were those ones that you had actually banded in Costa Rica?
Yes, correct. So far, there is an organization called Motus there is a good friend that she is actually in charge of that project that is called PAS. So PAS is in charge of motus in Central America, and through them they've been basically putting those special mist nets for we can intercept the birds and we can abandon them in Costa Rica. So probably they come from farther, so who knows? But so far, doing that in our country and locally, we've been able to attract some of those species that being able to end up in this part of the United States. But between more possibilities, we can do that across our planet and across our continent. We're going to understand even deeply how far they go and where is the mission of traveling so far.
Great, thank you. So Elizabeth was asking, can you go back to the slide about the primary, secondary, and tertiary layers or ecosystems? Not sure.
You're
Which slide was
talking
it that you were interested in, Elizabeth? I don't know if you want to unmute and
maybe this one?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it has been really, I mean, over 200 years of since the first scientists arrived in our country, and especially in this side of of the planet in America, for understand what we have in this continent, in this new continent, as they used to call us. So, for so far, took us so many years to describe a little bit of what is inside of our ecosystems. But luckily, that information brought us to understand how everything is interconnected, how every little creatures, develop such important role, and that connect even with large mammals. Also, us, we are part of the ecosystem, and many of those animals, if you want to see, I don't know, a turkey, or you want to see deers or another animals, there are some group of animals that are such important for the environment that we call keystone species. So especially those are that interconnect a huge diversity. They interconnect with more species, more than just one, sometimes. So also us as a human, we have a keystone species that are the bees. The honeybee are essential for feed our humanity. So understanding how fragile and how are everything interconnected and how the ecosystems are working, we're going to understand deeply that we belongs to this planet and we are part of the ecosystems as well. As a biological species, as we are, we require a healthy ecosystem for we can keeps existing and developing our economy as well, as we know. So, but I think still we are missing a lot of part of that information that like recently we're understanding how fungus, they are actually super interconnected under the trees, creating a kind of internet connecting all the plants between. And it's something that we are just learning a few years ago. And that is part of what we are doing still with BioSur. We keep understanding and creating that information to understand this whole picture.
Another question from another AmeriCorps alum. Do you know if this slide's information is in talks with Costa Rican developers regarding insect and animal protections? If not, what are ways that natural inclusivity can be a part of the conversation? I don't know, Joshua, you might need to chime in and clarify a bit on that. If you can unmute yourself.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I bring this question up for a little bit of context. I kind of arrived late to this webinar, but what I've seen is how there's the issue of development, and I really want to hit that topic of conversation because we are not a part of nature. We are a part of nature. We are included. And the things that I've been running into a lot in my experience in the environmental field is this kind of opposition with developing markets, etc., job forces, all of these things that would be good on the human-based sphere, right? And we, as environmental folk, understand that there is another topic of conversation to be had revolving our natural resources, our flora, our fauna, our insects, all of these things. And so I raised this question about, is there any initiative in Costa Rica about these developments? For example, the national park and how people were displaced and how animals are getting hit on the road, things like that, right? How does this enter the talks with these folks and bring people to the negotiating table regarding these conservation efforts?
Yeah. Oof. That is, it's something that is really challenging, because I project this image. This is basically pretty part of our community, so we need to understand that conservation also it's about human rights. And until we don't live in an equal world, it's really hard that people believe in conservation and the type of development that we require as well. So if you ask most of the people from our community after living in remote areas without able to even drive a car, now they want a car. They want to have high speed roads, and bring electricity. Even they haven't lived like that way the majority part of their life. So it's becoming more challenging because local community refuse basically to keep living in the same conditions, but doesn't mean that conservation, development should be the same way as we are developing here in the United States. It's how we can increase their well-being, at the same time that we are preserving our natural resources. And that is something that we are doing. We're trying to develop green economic opportunities today with our local community. Recently, we started a new project that is about the conservation of stingless bees of Costa Rica, and in training local women that owns huge pieces of rainforest still, to use the bees for they can harvest them for their own for they can consume for their own families, but also we can create incomes developing subproducts coming from nature. So through that, we've been able to create a new brand that is called BioSur, that now we have a lot of women working on this project, and this is one of the initiatives of how we can develop green economic opportunities that helps to develop the jobs that it require the local community, but also how we can secure that the natural resources are used in the best way as possible, and helping local families to hold their land as well. So I think that is the major challenge today that we are facing, because the conservation model change per region as much, I feel. It's not like you do a copy and paste and project into a community and you expect the same results. That is something that change depends on the reality of the people that are living in the region, the historical reasons behind as well. All that it's essential for understand how we can develop new opportunities as we call development, and sadly, for example, we copy the model of development that is creating huge problems. That is something else that we are doing. So I invite you that you can search like Jim Córdoba, BioSur Foundation, Spider Monkey, AI. We are using now like AI for record huge amount of data and let us to understand what is happening with the road development and the development of resorts, development of, more aggressive kind of development into the region. But still, we are in our beginnings to understand how that is putting our nature under threat. I hope to answer the question.
Thank you. I really appreciate that insight.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jim. There is another question, but before, because I know some people might have to go here, so I want to make sure everybody is seeing this. So actually, Jim and also Joseph Losi, who is another Community Solutions Fellow that we're hosting at Tinkers Creek, and Joseph is from the Solomon Islands. They will be joining Elaine Marsh and Katie Stubel from Summit Metro and Holden Forest and Gardens for this International Perspectives on Environmental Stewardship. It's a free symposium. It will be held at the Davie Seed campus on November 18th from 8 to noon. Breakfast is included, and I will go ahead and send this flyer out with the recording afterwards. And this is also on our website, tinkerscreek.org/events. You can see it there. And then also our winter webinar schedule. So Joseph will speak different presentations. So the symposium is going to be different than what you heard today. There will be some things that are similar, but definitely some different aspects. Same thing with Joseph. He's going to do a webinar on November 20th, and then you can see our full lineup here. All of this can be found on our website. You can go to tinkerscreek.org/events, scan this QR code, and find some information on those things. So please, if you're interested, I realize this isn't in person, the symposium. If you can make it, I think you'll love it. There's going to be a tour of the Davie Seed campus afterwards, and I think there's going to be some really interesting conversations there. And then webinars, we'll have one a month. And again, all of this is on our website. I'm gonna stop sharing and go back to you, Jim. Go ahead and share again, because we did have, thank you, everybody. If you have to leave, I understand it's 1 o'clock. But I know there was at least one other question I want to give Jim a chance to answer before we finish here. And if you want to stick around, you're of course more than welcome. But Jordan had asked, out of curiosity, have you ever have frequent encounters with any of your venomous species, and how do you go about dealing with that and preserving with such a diverse and prominent ecosystem? So I don't know if you want to share your screen and show us something that's creepy. You know, I don't like those spiders, Jim, but Jordan may be fascinated by some of the creepy crawly photos you have.
All right. I'm going to maybe share this small video that is a couple minutes. Maybe everybody can
Sure.
listen, and then we can see these images of the biodiversity of our place. Yes, I deal with a lot of venomous snakes around. It's like we have 3% of the world's biodiversity there, so you can expect everything. But so far, I live immersed in the rainforest. We have bushmasters. We have a fur-de-lance that is that snake that we have seen just a few seconds ago. But I don't feel afraid at all. And I try to teach them to the people how much important they are for the entire ecosystem. So far, I've been interacting with wildlife. Everything run away from humans. So actually, they are really like chill animals. They keep the distance with you. If you are walking around the forest, they move away from you. And mostly of the accident happened because the people grabbed them, or actually people ended up attacking them. And then the snake tried to defend itself and ended up like attacking the people too. So basically, that is not the major problem. Like navigating into the rainforest or something like that. I invite you, everybody, to join Tinker Creek to be part of this big dream. We need to start locally for transform our planet. It's the most important. And hopefully, I invite you that everybody can follow the work as well that I'm doing in Costa Rica. And eventually, we're going to keep, connecting even more Costa Rica with Ohio in the future. Remember that conservation depends upon our, joint effort together. So it's really important that all of us, we interconnect even more.
Thank you so much, Jim. Anybody else have a question before we let Jim go for today? Thank you all for joining us. Again, I will go ahead and send out a link to the recording, as well as flyers for both the International Symposium on November 18th and our webinar list. So please look for that and other events at tinkerscreek.org/events.